Welcome to another episode of Federal Data Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the rapidly changing world of data, especially in the public sector, with your host, me, Stephen Cole, an Azure DoD specialist at Microsoft Federal. Let's jump right in. But before we get started, got to satisfy the legal folks. Hit it.
The content provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed herein belong solely to the individual host or guest and do not represent those of any other person or entity. All rights reserved. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including recording, photocopying, or other electronic or mechanical methods, without the prior written permission of the publisher, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical reviews and certain other non-commercial uses permitted by copyright law. For permission requests, DM the publisher on X, Federal Data Talk. The information in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Listeners should not act upon any information provided in this podcast without seeking professional counsel.
Hey, Stephen Cole over here at Microsoft Federal. I'm actually sitting down with Lucas Gephardt. I'm going to butcher his title. I'm going to butcher everything about the context here. But we're sitting at the Silicon Valley office here at Microsoft, and today we've got a federal EBC. So we got an opportunity to dive deep into some of the capabilities. But first of all, introduce yourself first, and then tell us a little bit about what you're doing here.
So I'm Major Lucas Gephardt. I'm happen to be an active duty Army officer, and I am the project owner for the ATEC data mesh at ATEC.
Okay, so I owe push-ups for not including rank. So
I actually greatly prefer to just be called Lucas, but I don't look like I'm in service, and it is kind of weird, right? Like, there's a construction to have.
Yeah, it's like, where's my uniform? Yeah. This is my uniform. So, good time, informational. Has it been helpful? Some of the morning session, we're just coming about 3 hours or so of really start to finish of us diving into things, and we still have a full day and a half left.
Yeah, like I was saying a minute ago, I think particularly in the beginning briefs, when we talk about the ATO process, like RMS is what sucks so much of our time away because of just DoD security requirements. And so learning more about resources that are out there that can standardize and speed that stuff up for us are super helpful. We're already using infrastructure as code. We're already trying to be on the cutting edge of doing this the right way with our Terraform. And so having databases and resources that somebody has gone before me and done this gets me through so much. And so it's a major time saver. And they're already actually started this morning with EMAS access and GitHub access while I was in the meeting, my tech lead and cyber lead.
That's the beauty of having a little bit of preparation on the front end, and obviously some very capable folks at your command to be able to jump into it right away. So real quick, can you talk a little bit about the data mesh at the office? Can you talk a little bit about that particular project, or do you want to dive into maybe a little bit of what you expected and then kind of what you've already covered thus far and how it relates to that?
Yeah, I think so. The project itself. So ATEC, the Army Test and Evaluation Command, is very geographically diverse organization. So we have test centers that are flowing across the country, and until relatively recently in the scope of human events, like, we're actually separate organizations, and so they've been brought together underneath the Army Test and Evaluation Command. What that means is that all of our IT and the way that we conduct testing is different across all of the test centers, and it's a little weird because you'll have the system under test go across the different places in ATEC to get testing done. We'll have a system under test go across all the different test centers in ATEC.
Yeah, and
even if it's a tank, like, it might get called a different thing at a different place. The M1 Abrams, it might be called an M1 Abrams. It might be called an M1A1 or an M1A1 Set V2 or something like that. And so the naming of these assets is hard.
Sure.
The data's in its own enclave. It might be a closed restricted network. So the names aren't the same. The data's not the same. The names aren't the same. And the processing of it, even if it's done by the same test instrument, isn't the same.
Wow.
And so when you think about your ability to quickly turn from a test event to insights to stakeholders, we are in about as bad of a construct as you can get.
Yeah.
If that's your mission, and I think that it is ours, it's definitely our business proposition. You need a centralized data environment where we can agree on the names and we can get toward schema and pipeline convergence to allow for automation and acceleration of data processing to get the insights faster. That's what we're building with the ATEC data.
And that's exactly what, quite frankly, in some cases gets lost in translation sometimes. You talked about all the disparate data sources, the nomenclature, I would say the diverse set and probably difficult to access data sources to be able to report against that for comprehensive data analysis. That's the point. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you certainly can't find everything if it's not called the same thing.
That's
so like
true.
Even if I stood up an enterprise federated search that was capable of hitting the ATEC data mesh, it was capable of hitting my A365 environment, it was capable of hitting all my on-premises storage, which is not, by the way, because you're storing your stuff on your computer because that's what humans do, right? Excel file,
That's right.
final version 2, final version 6, all in the same file name. They're not named as the same thing. So how do you search, even if it was computationally efficient, which it's not, you still can't search because it's not named the same thing.
Right.
And so we've got to get the core of the service. Our Chief Data Officer, Brian Kelly, started with the core of the service as our common reference model. And that is about going to the root authoritative source for data and taking everything from that root source. So now you have one place where the right name or the is at, and you are able to hit that spot to get convergence.
Well, it sounds as if there's not just the project complication that can impact timeline, but obviously the resources and the folks that are there to help from Microsoft perspective. That's essentially the point of having Azure and all the different platforms as a service and infrastructure as a service offerings that Azure brings to the table. So without getting into I guess maybe a product pitch, what is it that you were expecting coming out here? And then what do you anticipate the next day and a half is going to look like to help impact your mission?
I think for me, it's just about learning, right? So, I am not an IT professional. By the way, I was an Apache pilot until 5 years ago. Thank you. And then I was an economics instructor. And now for the last year and a half, the Army has they put you in a place where you're not ready for the job that you get right away. And so my learning, my growth journey has been, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And you get the learning from the people that teach you. And so if I take the knowledge that I've learned for the last couple of years from the people that I'm working with, and I want to make sure that I can reconcile what they're saying against what the subject matter experts at Microsoft are saying, and then also what the future sort of looks like for the offerings that Microsoft has, so that I make sure that I am future-proofing myself, right? So forward compatibility is important to us.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm the most interested in. When I saw the agenda for the conference, I said to myself, you're using all those services, all of them, right? Like everything that we're talking about is either in our environment now or programmed to be soon.
Yep.
And so you better know what the future looks like so that you're building a solution that's compatible to that.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to walk through not just your mission, but then also kind of your thought process on how to prep yourself and quite frankly, what the future is going to look like. So with that, any save grounds? Anything else you want to touch on before we jam?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. I appreciate your time. Lucas, thank you very much for taking some time to talk about ATEC and the data mesh. For more insights, check out Microsoft Federal, and you know where to find us.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Federal Data Talk. Hopefully you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey into the world of data. Join us for new episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you don't miss it whenever we release them, for thought-provoking discussions and interviews with industry experts. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.